Hello everyone. Today our guest is Martinus van Lies. He is a pioneer in the cannabis community and a passionate advocate for sustainable practices and education around cannabis use. Over the years, he has founded multiple organizations and written several books on the topic. Welcome to Lexter Woodley Interviews. Martinus, let's dive right into your story. How was your upbringing? How was life like for you growing up?
Growing up, my life was okay. I'm born in a little village called Almelo. It's near the German border. And I love my little village. I've grown up there with my little brother. We had a lot of friends. We played a lot of soccer. And in my little city, Almelo, when I was about 15 years, was also my first encounter with cannabis. But later on, I'm going to tell you more about this experience.
Oh, tell me now, what was that specific moment?
This specific moment was a strange moment because I was 15 years old when we were playing with friends, and one of them showed me a little bag with green grass inside. We didn't know what it was. So he changed the grass in a kind of cigarette and we smoked it together. And it was an amazing experience. We laughed, we had so much fun. And this was also the moment that I was attracted to cannabis because I couldn't resist it. I wanted to know more about it.
That smile on your face. I've never smoked anything in my life. No drugs, no alcohol. So I'm very curious about your experience. But you've spent years researching cannabis and its benefits. What was the most surprising or eye-opening thing that you discovered during your research?
The biggest eye-opener was that cannabis wasn't just a recreational drug. It had medicinal properties. And that was something I didn't learn when I was younger, because when I was 15 and I smoked my first joint, it was illegal somewhere on a playground and our parents couldn't know anything about it. And this was something when I started researching cannabis that changed my opinion. It wasn't just a recreational drug. No, it was a kind of medicinal flower which you can use for a lot of different illnesses. This was the biggest thing that I came about.
Despite of the benefits, it's stigmatized all over the world. Why is that?
I think two reasons. Pharmacy, the biggest one, reason number one. And the second one would be, I think, religion. Pharmacy doesn't want people to grow a flower in the backyards and come, say, 75% less to a doctor or pharmacy or specialist, because I think when people learn to grow a flower, which is very easy, and to extract it and to use it, for all your pain problems, sleep problems, and a lot of different illnesses, you don't need any doctor anymore. So I think the biggest reason is pharmacy. And the second one is religion. So many religion countries talk about cannabis like it's a kind of demon, and that's why a lot of people rather die than use cannabis for a kind of illness. This is also experiences which I came about in my 10 years helping people with medical cannabis.
So what is needed for people to realize that these misconceptions should change?
Education. We are not educated enough on cannabis. It's stigmatized, it's demonized, and everyone thinks you start with a joint and you will end up with a needle in your arm. But it's totally bullshit.
How do you personally debunk or try to change the conceptions about it?
Now, when I lecture in a theater or somewhere, there are always doctors and experts telling me that there is no scientifically proof or something like that on cannabis. And then I start smiling, I tell them, when did you research for the last time, say on PubMed, about medicinal cannabis? Because there are 12,000 studies on cannabis. There are more studies on cannabis than on certain kinds of cancers. So that's also something that I came about, what is very strange. Nobody talks about cannabis, but it's more studied than certain kind of cancers. And the second thing is, what I tell people if they are skeptic, just take a look at our reviews. These are reviews given by people who didn't believe it as well, but they tried it and I helped them. And if you take a look at our reviews, I cannot imagine myself when you got a kind of illness and you wouldn't try it, because it's only positive, no side effects, but only positivity.
Reviews on your company website. Let's talk more about the professional journey. How did you first get into selling CBD oils?
I never thought in my life I would end up in cannabis. 10 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And the first thing what you do is, I think what everyone does is Google some kind of tumor and see what it is. I remember after, maybe 10 minutes, I was reading about medicinal cannabis. The second thing on my mind was, how do I kind of tell my mother she needs to use cannabis? Because it's a very difficult subject. Also here in the Netherlands, people think in the Netherlands cannabis is a normal thing, but it isn't. And after helping my mother and convincing her to use cannabis in a kind of way, it was such an amazing experience with her and her cancer that I couldn't resist telling people about cannabis. After my mother's experience, my uncle who couldn't sleep asked me, would it help for sleep? I don't know, test it. And yes, it helped. My aunt has rheumatic problems and it worked there as well. So I couldn't resist helping people with cannabis until the end. I thought, open a kind of foundation, help people, try to get it all over the place here in the Netherlands, start giving lectures, open a YouTube channel. And that's what I did. I started selling it because my experience with my mother and her cancer was a special thing. Cannabis helped us through.
Can you talk us through the establishment of Cannagroep?
Yeah, of course. I established Cannagroep as a kind of platform. When I started in this field of cannabis, it was difficult to connect all the dots together. You need to do a cannabis analysis in a certain kind of laboratory. You need to buy your little bottles where everything is inside, the pipette bottles, at a kind of medicinal wholesale. You buy your cannabinoids at another wholesale. So all these dots I connected together. I opened the last few years a lot of different websites, a cannabis laboratory where we analyze cannabis, Cannazon, that's a marketplace where you can sell alternative stuff. And all these websites together are a kind of the Cannagroep. I tried to make a platform where everyone is welcome. If you want to start in the cannabis business, but also when you are a private person and you're looking for, say, a doctor who can give you advice in using cannabis. The Cannagroep, we analyze cannabis. We are giving away awards. We got our Canna magazine. We try to give everyone in Europe a kind of open arm to start or to use these products. This is what the Cannagroep kind of is. It's a dream coming together.
What were early challenges that you had?
The early challenges that I had was a lot of lack, again, on education. A lot of problems that I came to was with banking, with banks. They don't understand cannabis, so you have to explain 1,000 things before you get a bank account. Next to opening the company and getting started is also a lot of specialists and doctors. When I started 10 years ago, they were against cannabis. They were not educated enough. That's what I tell them always. If you know from cannabis what I know, you wouldn't be against it. But the most important things that I came to were opening my company, getting a bank account, and the resistance from all the experts, the white jackets who know everything better than we do. This is also something we see a big change in for the last few years. Doctors are getting more and more the idea that cannabis has medicinal properties. So, yeah, I think these are the two biggest points.
Were there any particular people or resources that were instrumental to you in helping you grow Cannagroep?
Oh, there are so many inspiring people. Say in Germany, I interviewed a German judge called Andreas Müller. He was shouting out in Germany for the parliament and telling them that he wouldn't give anyone a fine anymore when they get caught smoking cannabis. This amazing guy. You can look up to him on YouTube. Andreas Müller. It's a famous German judge who's pro-cannabis. In the Netherlands, for example, we got Werner Bruining. He is the founder of Mediwiet, also a foundation which lectures all over the Netherlands and telling people how to use this kind of products. And then my good friend from the United States, Uwe Blessing. Uwe Blessing is the author of the Cannabis Health Index. I bought this book, I opened it, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Uwe write down in his books, when you got, say, a kind of cancer or rheumatic problems, what the percentages and combinations in THC and CBD are. A PhD who has studied into cannabis. And Uwe is a good friend of mine, just like the judge. Everyone I like is, or when I read someone's book, I love to send them an email, what I learned from these books. And all the authors, a lot of them which I send it an email, are now good friends of mine. So I'm proud of it.
You've also built a strong community around cannabis advocacy. How do you actively engage with this community?
In different ways. Once every 3 months, we got a community day, because we got a lot of people from all over the world that want to connect with me. And for them, we organize a community day. Once every 3 months, we select 20, 25 people, which we invite to our company, which can stay there a day, get connected with me, talk there, eat there, stay there, show them our labs, make a CBD oil with your own name on it. This is, maybe it's one of the nicest things that we do, get connected in community days with people who can't wait to meet me. But what we do online and what we do with videos and newsletters, we always try to connect with our customers. That's also why we try to give people who are ordering a package from our company, to give them more worth in what they get back from us than what they paid. Testers, we are giving out magazines. We are trying to connect with our customers through WhatsApp. So when they got a question, you don't have to send us an email and wait for us. We try to keep the community as close as possible, like family.
About this family, indeed, can you share a personal story with someone from the community, someone who you got in touch with, and that story really resonated with you?
Yeah, I got so many stories. I shipped out more than 100,000 bottles in the last year. And of course, there are a few stories which still touch me and are difficult to talk about, because I lost friends. They came as a customer and they became friends, and they died after 7 or 6 or 9 years on cancer. One of the stories that pops up in my head right now is a woman called Mia. One day my phone goes and I picked up my phone and someone calls me. It's a woman called Mia. She's about 70 years old and she tells me she got cancer and she's dying. If I can come by and help her with oil. And she laughed a little bit and she told me she want to get stoned before she's going to die. And it touched me. So what I did, it was not far from my home. I took my bicycle and I visited Mia. When I entered the first time at their place, it was a sad story. She was lying in a bed in a room. The children are sitting there. The doctor was just gone for half an hour, and he told the children that she didn't have long. It was half November, and if she would survive Sinterklaas, the 5th of December, it would already be something special. So she had just a few weeks. I came there, and it was a sad story, you know. She couldn't hold. She needed to go to the toilet, but she couldn't hold it. So it was touching what happened there. And I told Mia, I brought her a bottle of wheat oil, and I told her, take a drop every hour until you think you feel something, and then you stop using it. And when the feeling disappears, you start again. Yeah, I'm going to do it exactly how you tell me, smiling, laughing. So what happened there was so amazing. Mia was just about, 45 kilos. She was lying in a bed. She don't want to sleep because she was scared if she didn't wake up anymore. I gave her cannabis and it helped her. So imaginable, incredible. After the first day, Mia started sleeping from 9 till 9. So her body was regenerating. THC helped her immune system. THC helped her to get a kind of hunger. She didn't eat, but after using THC, her hunger was triggered, so she needed to eat. After 10 days of sleep and eating, Mia gained a kind of energy back that was so amazing. She told me after 10 days, today I am going on my bicycle to the hospital to ask my oncologist why he didn't told me about cannabis oil. Because look at me right now. I gained 5 kilograms. I slept like a bear. What happened to me with this oil? I say, I'm very curious what your oncologist is going to tell you. And after say an hour, she called me back and it was so incredible. She recorded the talk with her oncologist. She entered the room and she asked him, why didn't you talk about cannabis? The first thing he said is, I cannot tell you anything about it because I don't know anything about it. But when I look at you, it looks like a miracle. And I would keep on going what I'm doing right now. And that's what Mia did, She couldn't be helped anymore in the hospital. And instead of living 2 weeks, she lived for 6 years. She sold her house. And I remember many times that I was talking with her that she told me, if I would know the oil would work like this, I wouldn't sell my house because I'm living already more than 5 years or 4 years with my children together right now. And this is just one story, Someone rises from the dead, gain kilograms, gain a kind of energy, got time back from who knows what, to sell her house, to live, to do vacations with her children, to make a kind of closure, which you are dreaming of when you get diagnosed with cancer, because it was a roller coaster, She was diagnosed and she just had 6 months. She could only cry. She couldn't sleep anymore. So it was a roller coaster. And after the cannabis oil, it was a kind of bonus time. In the end, Mia died, and this is also something what we always see when they use cannabis oil. They don't die in a kind of way which we are used to when people got cancer. Lying in the bed, morphine, cannot take any breath anymore, No, Mia just slept in. The boys called me because she got a few sons. I have still contact with those boys. And they called me and say, Mom just slept in last night. She isn't there anymore. So there was a funeral, and I don't go to funerals normally, but this was such a personal thing there that I visit the funeral. And we are hugging, we couldn't stop hugging together, and everyone thanked me and my company for the bonus time that they had, And this is just one story. I cannot talk good about it because it's so emotional. I can cry when I think about it. And I got thousands of stories like this. You can't believe how many stories like this we got. Guys with prostate cancer who think they just got 9 months to live, they live 9 years. It's such an amazing thing what every day we come across. Excuse me for my long reaction.
No, that's beautiful.
Maybe I talk too long.
No, it's really, really amazing how you can tell about this. You have so much to tell.
Yeah.
Like this, but also your books, because you've written some books.
Yes, I've took 3 books. They are lying over there.
We will show them. We will show them later.
Show them.
But what are some of the key points or arguments that you want to emphasize in these books?
The first book that I've written is Weed Oil, about weed oil, because that's my main business, Stop smoking it, use a few drops. Stop using pills if they don't work, try cannabis. So my first book was about the foundation weed oil pure, my first project. What is weed oil? How does it work? How do you consume it? The simple steps. This was my first book. And my second book is a kind of trilogy, 3 books. The first one is weed oil. What do you need to know about it? And now I got the second one, weed oil. What are the customers telling about it? And the final one is wheat oil. How does it work? So this book, Wheat Oil, is the first one of a trilogy. The second book that I wrote is, many people are curious who I am. So I've written a book called 25 Years Smoking Cannabis, What Does It With Mind and Body? This is a personal story of mine, where I was growing up, where I lived, how did I came across cannabis, what was my first encounter, and how could I stop after smoking 25 years weed? How could I stop? How could I do that? So this story is more a personal story. And the third book, Cannabis, I'm a personal development guy. You know, I meditate, I don't drink. I loved getting up early, doing all the stuff right. And I think in Cannabis, I wrote down a kind of thing that happened to me, that a guy who doesn't do anything in personal development without money can end up as a millionaire and doing the things that he dreams of, helping people, have a lovely company, have a lot of people working for me. Yeah, this is the message what I'm giving in these 3 books. So it's a difficult thing to just put out or take out just one piece, but it's 3 different things in 3 different books. I'm writing also another book right now, Why Every Government Should Legalize Cannabis. This is how it's called.
When is that going to come out?
I think in about 6 months or something, because I want to show governments why they can better stop using tax money to decriminalize cannabis instead of legalizing cannabis and making billions and billions on income. Because we got examples in California, you know, the state of California makes $2 until $3 billion every year by taxing cannabis companies. We are paying hundreds of millions every year from taxpayers' money to criminalize cannabis, to get police officers day in, day out as far to look up to cannabis. I don't know how to say it good in English. I have to think a little bit. The 100 million, what we every year pay from tax money for the police to work and find out, say, cannabis illegal growing companies, this 100 million euros every year can easily be put in something that's more important. Because if we tax the cannabis companies like they do in California, we make billions of dollars, which now disappear in the pockets of the criminals. Because we got a very big cannabis contribution here in the Netherlands. We sell thousands and thousands of kilograms of cannabis every year, but it's grown illegal, and all the money is disappearing in the pockets of the criminals. And that's why government should legalize cannabis for its medicinal properties, to get more income for the state as well. And you know, I can talk hours and hours just about this subject, why government should legalize cannabis. But it's a very interesting book, and I'm still working on it, and I think it's going to be the best one that I've written.
So in that, I assume that you're going to see what needs to be done in the coming 5 to 10 years, according?
Yeah, legalize it, open cannabis social clubs, look into the medicinal properties, get educated. That's it. When everyone was educated in cannabis like I am, the world would change. You know, it's a flower which we can use in foreign countries where they don't have money to grow cannabis. You know, it's a very easy growing flower which it doesn't need much water. So think about the African countries. You know, it's difficult to grow a good crop. Cannabis is so easy to grow, and that will be the best countries to grow in are the African countries. So we can motivate Africa to grow cannabis. We can use it medicinally. We can make oil and fuel out of it. We can make clothes out of it. You know, if everyone would know what I know, what we can do with this cannabis and hemp flower, the world would be turned upside down. Think about Henry Ford. The first car was a driven car on hemp oil. The first Ford drove on hemp oil. And you can smoke the smoke which come out the car isn't a toxic smoke. It's just incredible what you can do with it.
So it's education. How can you maybe, like, do you have an idea how the education could look like for a better idea of how cannabis can work?
Yes, we first got to stop demonizing this flower. This is the most important thing, because there are still so many people that are thinking when the children start smoking a joint, they will end up with a needle in their arms. That isn't just the case. So we got to educate the people.
Yeah, so indeed, you have to stop demonizing. But how? What? Through schools? Through
Yeah, from schools out, from governments out, from very important one is again from religion and pharmacy out. We don't need to use cannabis in the last stadium of our lives. So it's a difficult thing to get a country educated into cannabis. That's a difficult thing. But I think education is done in schools, in governments. So I think we have to look into that. And to be honest, I didn't thought about how to educate a country. That's a very good question. This is one which I would think about later on today or
in
tomorrow.
Your book, maybe.
Yeah, for my book, how to educate a country. This is a very good one, because I can tell them how much money they are losing. I can tell them how much money they can make and all the medicinal properties. But how to educate them is a very good point. Thank you.
How has your personal use changed over the years regarding cannabis?
When you got educated, I'm educated in cannabis. So when you smoke cannabis, you realize that you're doing something that harms your lungs. So I needed a time to quit smoking cannabis and to start using the drops. But I was 15 years old when I smoked my first joint. And what I learned there was that cannabis is an illegal substance and nobody can hear anything about it. So my first, say, 10 years, I smoked in an illegal way cannabis. This later on changed when I turned adult. I thought, something, cannabis is a good substance. It helps me with better sleep, it's staying relaxed in my head. And then I told my parents I smoked cannabis. But always I smoked cannabis, when I think back, like a kind of medicine, I didn't like it too much when I get too stoned. But in this 31 years of using cannabis, because I'm 46, and when I was 15 I smoked my first joint. In this 31 years of smoking, using cannabis, I had so many different experiences. I was green out. That's the name of an overdose on cannabis. You get sick and green and yellow and you think you're gonna die, but nobody ever died on cannabis. But I thought I'm going to die. But the next day, everything was okay again. But my experience with cannabis, oh my God, it's such a long one. It's 31 years. Now I don't use anything anymore, just drops. This is the only thing I use. I know exactly how many drops I need. And I know exactly at what time I need to take these drops. So what I do is I fill up a capsule with different kind of oils, which I take around, say, 4 o'clock. And when I come home about 6, and when I eat, my metabolic system also starts working, and that's when the wheat oil is coming into my system as well. So when I take about 4 o'clock my capsule, it's working like I want it to work about 7:30 in the evening. I can let go of my work, I can let go all my writings, and I have a good time with my wife without talking about cannabis.
And when did you stop the smoking? And
one day I was lecturing a room full of people with lung cancer. And I told them, don't smoke it, don't smoke it. But in my head, I was thinking, but you smoke, but you smoke. I was always thinking about, I love to preach what I'm doing, but this was a kind of thing I didn't talk about. So
how long ago was this?
6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was lecturing this room of lung cancer patients. And I don't know exactly, but somewhere in the end of the lecture, everyone was happy. There popped up an idea in my head. I told myself, today is the last joint I'm going to smoke, because I'm telling the people here in the room, don't smoke. What are you kind of teacher? Or what mentor are you if you're still smoking it, And I know I'm not ill right now, so why would I keep on going smoking this black smoke, put it into my lungs? This was the day when I saw so many lung cancer patients together, that kind of emotional trigger came into my head. It's the last day of smoking weed. It took a while, because when I quit smoking weed, it was kind of difficult. And why it was difficult, I smoked my joints with tobacco. And also I understand I was a kind of addicted to tobacco, because the first thing I did is I thought I'm going to smoke pure cannabis, but it doesn't taste good. It's very sharp. I left out the tobacco. I had a kind of high, but it was a different one, a one I didn't like. I was missing the tobacco. And after this test evening, this test day, I thought, you know something, tomorrow I start using drops. I don't smoke anymore, and I will see how it will end up. And I remember I needed to do a test evening, like I told everyone, but I need to do it for myself. And that was a strange thing. I was advocating, do it like this, test your maximum doses like that. But now it was my time to do it. So I tried to look up where my resistance against THC is, and I needed a bit. I took an extreme oil. I used about 15 drops, and I remember getting stoned without smoking something. And this was a very strange experience. I was sitting on the couch, feeling that my mouth was getting drier, the symptoms of getting stoned, but I didn't smoke, and it was a very good feeling as well. I'm getting these properties of cannabis without smoking anything. And now 6 years later, it's almost difficult to describe it, because it looks like I never smoked when I now look back. If people ask me, do you smoke cannabis? I say, no, of course not. But it was normal for 25 years, And I always tell them I love the feeling of cannabis, this kind of a little bit high, not this stoned that you don't know what you're talking, but a kind of a little bit a high out of cannabis that relaxes your mind, that gives you that helps you with your muscle tightnesses. Yeah, I love the feeling of cannabis.
Now, I've been hearing you talking, and as I said at the beginning, I've never used anything.
Yeah. Incredible. Incredible.
Well, but I can imagine that lots of people who will be listening to you are like, you're really promoting it for others. And this is kind of seen as the gateway to harder drugs.
Yeah.
What will you say about that?
A lot of people think that cannabis is the entrance drugs. You start smoking and you end up with a needle. But that's totally bullshit, I sold 100,000 bottles of THC oil, and I never saw any customer turn from our oil into, say, heroin or cocaine or something like that.
You've never seen it, but you're saying it's totally BS. Well, I would think that there are people who have.
You are right. Of course, there are people who start using cannabis and maybe end up with stronger substances. But my experience in general is that people who love to use cannabis don't use the stronger kind of drugs, The way a lot of people are talking about cannabis is that it's a kind of entrance drugs. I think the entrance drugs is alcohol, You consume alcohol somewhere in a bar where in the toilets people are putting stuff up their noses. In coffee shops, they don't put stuff up their noses because if you get caught, they throw you out, It's a very strong system into coffee shops. You can't use hard drugs because the owner of the shop will lose his license. They do everything to stop you using stronger drugs. Cannabis, I don't want to promote cannabis, but if cannabis is a kind of medicine which will work for you, you got a very good medicine in your hand, because it has very few, how do you have to say it, like medicines, pills have a lot of different
side effects.
I don't, for everyone who is looking to this podcast or this video, I don't want to advocate cannabis. If you can live without cannabis, it's better to live without than with. But if you got a kind of illness, or you feel yourself home in your own body, or you don't know what's up, or you're using pills which for you in your mind doesn't work, you could try cannabis. Cannabis is a very good substance to use instead of your pills. But it's right. I don't want to advocate cannabis in a kind of a way, start using it and your life will turn better. No, that's not true. That's not true. I use cannabis, and I think if I didn't use cannabis, I would have a kind of medicine to keep my head relaxed. I think in my time when I was younger, ADHD and all this kind of sicknesses we didn't have at that time, but I think I have it. I'm very busy in my head. It's exploding after every sentence, every hour, 1001 ideas. And cannabis is for me a kind of medicine which helped me relaxing, to keep my feet on the ground. And for me, it's a good medicine, but certainly for a lot of people, it would be a terrible medicine. Why should you use cannabis if you maybe get addicted to it?
So you do think that there's addiction, because there are people that say that, you know, I kind of get addicted to this.
Yeah, you can get addicted to cannabis for sure. The only thing is, it's a kind of mental addiction, you know? It's not a body addiction that you get sick if you don't use it. I know exactly how addicted it is, you know? I got times that I think, you know, I quit cannabis. And then I get all these feelings inside of me that, how do you have to say it? This restriction feelings, or I can't sleep. Yeah, of course, cannabis is addicted. Cannabis is addicted, but not as heavily as we think, you know? If you just don't use it for 3 or 4 days, it's okay. You're back on the ground. You don't need it anymore. But for myself, yeah, I take cannabis daily. When I go in vacation, the first thing that pops up in my mind is, oh my God, I can't take my oil. So I'm addicted, yes.
Do you see yourself ever not using this?
Yes, I got times that I don't use it, but I love the feeling. And I told my wife also many times, you know, why should I live without cannabis if my life is great with cannabis? It's a biological flower which we grow at the foundation Weed Oil Pure. We grow cannabis in a big group. And this medicinal flower helps me to get a better sleep, to stay relaxed. Why should I stop using cannabis? You know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't use medicines. I don't do anything, just use a bit of cannabis to stay relaxed and focused, because it helps me many times when I'm writing a book and I don't have any focus. I just take a few drops and I can stay focused for hours just on, say, 1 page of text. It's for me, it's a kind of medicine, but it's addicted. So watch out.
I'm not going to do it. So,
No.
but I do understand. I do understand what you said earlier about the benefits for, you know, if you're ill or whatever. But
It's medicinal properties.
looking back on your journey, what would you say has been your proudest moment?
Oh, I have so many proudest moments, but I think the most proudest moments are when people are stopping me in the streets and telling me that I saved their lives and I don't know who it is. You know, I remember the name or the WhatsApp or the talk or the stream that we had. But if you see someone in the stream and you see him in reality, it's maybe a big guy who shows small in the stream, you know. The best things that happened to me is when people came to me and told them I changed their lives in a better way. I give them quality of life or things like that, you know. That's why I'm doing it. And that's also what I love. So if someone is watching, please encounter me. That's not a problem. A lot of people, they don't want to talk with me and think, oh, he's there. He's just private with his wife. Come to me and tell me what your experience is. This is why I'm doing this, you know, change lives, help people, tell them the benefits, help them to get a better quality of life.
For those looking into advocacy, entrepreneurial activities in the cannabis industry, what advice would you give?
Just start. Start, but be ready for a lot of resistance. Cannabis is a very nice product, a product which, when some customers come to you and they buy it, they will certainly come back because it's a product that really works. This is already something. Be ready for a lot of resistance. That's also the second point where you got to be ready for. And the third one is connect with the Cannagroep. We got a platform for you, you know, we got a wholesale. You can, I always tell a lot of people who are connecting with us, tell me your dream and let me see how we can realize it for you. We can build your website. We can give you wholesale products for free. In consolation, you don't have to pay it. We can help you with laws. We can help you with making movies with your white label. When I think the best question is when someone, entrepreneur or whatever, wants to start in the field of cannabis, to connect with someone who already did that where you want to go. So say you want to start a CBD shop. Connect with someone who's already got a CBD shop and who's successful. This is a few very important things that I can tell them. Look up for someone who has their experience, who is successful, and ask them what they encountered. Because it's nice to help people. It's very nice to work with cannabis. It's a kind of mysterious flower, Everyone is interested in it. But be ready for a lot of resistance and ask people who know a lot about it.
What's next for you? Any exciting projects, initiatives? You have the book that you're writing, that you're busy with.
So much. The next biggest thing for me is that all the 25 websites which together built the Cannagroep to be ready, and all the websites are done and all the shops are perfect. I'm working on one page right now that's called World Cannabis Forum, and I want to talk with a lot of very important companies and people in the field of cannabis one time a year about cannabis, what we can do. We got the WEF, but we now got the WCF as well. World Cannabis Forum. What do we need to do to convince governments, I think the next thing for me is to help governments, help states to get more educated into this field of cannabis. My dream is to finish up the cannabis group so everyone in the Netherlands can easily start in this field without getting too much resistance or without getting a big puzzle of which wholesale can I buy my stuff, where do I need to buy my little bottles. Just like I told before, I created a platform which should make it easy for everyone who wanted to start in this field. I would do that, I think. And this was also something why I started the cannabis group. One day I thought, why isn't there a group with cannabis people who could help me? So this is also the story why I started the cannabis group, to make a kind of platform for everyone, to make it easy to start.
Lastly, how can our listeners and viewers connect with you or support you or learn more about your work?
Just Google my name, connect through one of our websites, or even better, just send us a WhatsApp. We got a very good customer service. We are selling a lot of stuff on bol.com, and I think we are one of the better resellers on bol.com. And what we tell people there, like on all the websites, just connect with us by sending a WhatsApp. That's the easiest thing, You send us a WhatsApp with all the questions and we get back to you ASAP with answers. Even if you're not a customer, even if you don't want to buy anything, but you got one or two important questions, just send us a WhatsApp. I think that's the most easiest thing to connect with us.
Thank you so much, Martinus, for being here.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here to share my story, and happy to be a little bit, to get space to talk a bit about cannabis, and happy to be here.